Students, good morning. So today we'll discuss the different types of steps involved in the project scope management. And also we discussed in the previous class about the meaning and other basic concepts of project scope management. Once again, I recap. The project scope management that includes the processes required to ensure that the project includes all the work required. That is nothing but all the activities required, all the work to be completed. So, such that the project could be successfully completed. That is known as the project scope management. Okay, within the project, within the project scope, what all the activities, what all the work to be completed, the identification, defining, and uh, maintaining those project works is known as the project scope management. It consists of 6 steps. The planning of the scope management. The second step is collecting the requirements of the project. Third is defining the scope of the project. Third one is the creating the work breakdown structure, that is WBS. And fifth one is the validation of the scope. And the sixth one is controlling the scope. These are the 6 steps involved in the project scope management. So we'll discuss the first step, that is planning the scope management. This is the first step of the project scope management. Planning the scope management is nothing but it is the process of creating scope management plan. It is the document which shows you all the plan, all the activities, all the functions, all the work to be carried out, when each work is to be started, when each work is to be completed, what are the relationship among each activities, all the things have to be properly planned, defined, validated, and controlled is known as plan scope management. Plan scope management. It consists of various inputs and outputs. So the planning the scope management consists of 4 important documents. The first document is project charter. The second document is project management plan. Third document is enterprise environmental factors. And fourth one is organizational process assets. These are the 4 inputs which are essential for planning the scope management document. So these are the inputs, and the outputs are scope management plan. This is a proper plan about all the functions and the activities and the processes that are expected to take place in the project scope. Then a requirement management plan. How to gather the requirements. That's planning is also most important as one of the output of the planning the scope management. I elaborate, discuss all the inputs, the 4 inputs which I have discussed. So the one thing is that you remember, guys, project charter is nothing but it is the document which is to be developed before the project is initiated, and it identifies and tells all the activities which are being expected to take place in the project execution, and also it tells the roles and responsibilities and authorities of the project manager, and also it tells the what are the project objectives. These are the 3 important items to be covered in the project charter. That is known as the project charter. The first one is the project objectives. The second one, all the activities or the functions or the processes to be carried out in the project work. That is identification of all those things is known as the second step. The third step is nothing but the roles and responsibilities and the authority of a project manager have to be clearly written down in the document. That is known as a project charter. Subsequently I don't explain all these things again and again. That's why I'm explaining very clear what do you mean by the project charter. You should remember. The second one is the project management plan. It is something like a it is something like a plan. It is something like a plan. Okay, this is the plan to achieve the organizational objectives. Okay, what strategies have to be adopted in reaching the organizational objectives? Okay, what are the list of activities, when each activity has to start, when to end, what are the equipments required, what are the human resources are required, okay, how much money is required, how much time is required, who is the responsible for that activity, okay, and what are the relations among the all the activities of the process, what is the total critical path of the project, okay, what is the resource leveling is required, what are the risks are involved, all the documents have to be prepared, okay, as a plan. That is known as the project management plan. It consists of quality management plan, how the quality of the work or the quality of the material or the quality of the deliverable is to be verified, checked and inspected. That is the quality management plan. Then project life cycle description. Okay, as I told, discussed that there are many project life cycle. Which project life cycle we are adopting? Okay, that is to be considered. And the development approach. So this is known as the project management plan. The third document is enterprise environmental factors. Okay, the government has certain policies, certain guidelines for running the project or an industry. So we need to adopt all those government policies, okay, as external input or controlling the project. And also the organization has certain policies, guidelines that also to be considered, okay, in the internal environment. That is called as enterprise environmental factors. Then organizational process assets. Every organization has got certain standard SOP, okay, operating procedure, standard operating procedure is called as SOP, and it has got certain ethical guidelines, okay, certain policies, certain regulations of the organization that has to be taken as an input, one of the input for preparing the planning the scope management. These are the four inputs, okay. So what are the output produced out of this scope management plan? Okay, scope management plan. Okay, it lists all the processes, activities, and about the description of the activities and when to start, when to end, what are the relationship. That is called as the output plan. Then requirement management plan. What kind of requirements, how it is to be collected, that the description about that is the one of the output. So to get this output, we need to use a lot of tools and techniques for the analysis or for evaluating the plan scope management. That is known the tools and techniques used. Expert judgment. You know what is expert judgment, we already discussed. Okay, the pulling the ideas of the consultant, pulling the ideas of the stakeholder, pulling the ideas of the customers, okay, pulling the ideas of experienced project managers, and also the knowledge sharing. So like this, we need to collect the expert opinion or the judgment for deciding the scope management, planning the scope management, and data analysis. Okay, the functional, the business analyst, okay, by using the lot of data, they can evaluate the alternative analysis, which one is best, which one is bad. So like that, they can evaluate. And also we need to conduct a lot of meetings where we need to make a lot of decisions about the execution of the project. So the meetings are main fundamental activity. Most of the project managers are involved many meetings every day because they need to discuss in the committee, in the meeting, and they need to take a lot of decisions for the execution of the project. So these are all some of the tools and techniques which are being used for analyzing the input and getting the output for the scope management. The second step is collecting the requirements. It is the process of determining and documenting and managing the stakeholders' needs. Stakeholders may be the investors, maybe the customers, maybe the government, okay, maybe the any person who is involved in the business. Okay, so we need to collect the requirements to meet the project objectives. Okay, so this collecting the requirement consists of, again, a block diagram, inputs, tools and techniques used, and output. Okay, so the inputs used for this collecting the requirements are project charter, already discussed, and project management plan, which is the output of the first step, and project documents. Okay, project documents, nothing but assumption log. What are the constraints of the project? What assumptions have been made in the project? That is called the assumption log. And lesson learned registered from the previous experience of handling the project. What lessons we have learned, that has been documented in a register. That register is being taken as a lesson learned registered for the collecting the requirement as an input. Then stakeholder registered. Who are the stakeholders in this project? That register is to be taken as an input. So these are some of the project documents which are being used as an input for the second step. Then business documents and the business case. Okay, the business document is nothing but it tells what are the major project objectives of the project and how the business need to operate to meeting this business or meeting these project objectives. That is known as the business case of the business document. And the agreements, lot of agreements have to be made between the customers and the suppliers or the stakeholders. So that agreements have to be maintained. Enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets, already discussed. So these 7 inputs are required for collecting the requirements. What will be the output? Output will be the requirement document, final requirement document, and requirements traceability matrix. Okay, this is one of the output to be generated. What are the tools and techniques are being used? Expert judgment, data gathering and analysis, and decision making, and interpersonal and team skills. Okay, the nominal group techniques, observation and conversation, and facilitation process. These are some of the internal team skills are used as a tool and technique for evaluating for getting the output for the requirements. And context diagrams and also building a prototypes. Prototypes is nothing but building a 2D or 3D models, and it is given to the customer, okay, to verify the project objectives. Okay, after verifying, he may add some of the additional requirements for the model. So that is known as the 3D model, that's called as the prototypes. Okay, then we'll discuss about the context diagram. Context diagram is an example of the scope model. Okay, the context diagram that depicts the product scope by showing the business system. Business system consists of processes, equipments, and computers, and how the people and the other systems interact with this business system is known as context diagram. Okay, is known as context diagram. Then what do you mean by requirement traceability matrix? Requirement traceability matrix is the table of information about the project requirements. That is called as requirement traceability matrix. Okay, in evaluating the project requirement matrix, we need to get all the available requirement documents. Okay, example, we need to have a business required document, that is BRD, business requirement document, and functional requirement document, that is called as FSD, and technical requirement document, that is called as a TSD. These are the 3 documents which should be kept in finally drawing the requirement traceability matrix. The second step is list down all the requirements from the BRD, business requirement document, one by one with the requirement RD. Okay, we need to give some IDs for that. The third step is now go to the FSD and list all the respective functional requirements for the each business. Functional requirements of the each business. Then open the test scenario or the test case document and link all the available test case IDs to the respective functional requirement. This is how the fourth steps are involved in drawing the requirement traceability matrix. Okay, I'll give an example of online flight booking application as a software to be developed for a client. So in this we need to require to develop a business requirement document, that is BRD. Because the BRD contains two modules. One is business requirement document 1 as a reservation module, business requirement document 2 as a payment module. These two modules have to be developed. Then functional specification document FSD. So based on the business requirement document 1 reservation module, we need to identify three functional requirements. One is one-way ticket booking, round-way ticket booking, and multi-city ticket booking. These are the three functional requirements of the reservation module 1. Then business requirement 2, that is payment module. It consists of again three functional requirements, 4, 5, 6. Fourth one is credit card and by the debit card, fifth one, and sixth one by the reward points. So these are all the functional requirements of the payment module. Then we need to write down the test cases. Look at the test case 1. Verify the user is able to book one-way ticket. Test case 2. Verify the user is able to book multiple one-way tickets. Test case 3. Verify if the user is able to book a round-way ticket. Test case 4. Verify the user is able to book a multiple round-way tickets. Test case 5. Verify if the user is able to book one-way ticket for multiple cities. So like this, we need to develop alternative possible test cases in developing the software. Then finally, we need to draw a requirement traceability matrix, RTM, okay, taking the business requirement documents and functional requirement documents and the test case documents for the business requirement document 1 and business requirement document 2. Okay, you can refer the notes so that you will understand very clearly. Then the third step of the project scope management is defining the scope. The scope is the process of developing a detailed description of the project or the product. Okay, the key benefits of this process is that it describes the product, service, or the result boundaries or the accepted criteria of the project. So it consists of again inputs, outputs, and the tools and techniques used. The inputs are project charter, already explained, and project management plan, and project documents, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. Almost all the documents we discussed in the previous step. So these documents act as the input. Then what are the outputs? This project scope statement is to be prepared, because there is a third step defining the scope that is to be defined in the as an output, and project documents have to be updated. Whatever the project documents we have taken as an input based on the project scope defined properly, okay, defined properly about the, say for example, we have 100 requirements in the step 2, and don't think that all the 100 requirements is possible to consider for our project. Okay, assume that hardly 60 requirements are most essential for the project execution. So those 60 requirements have to be taken as a defining the scope management. That's why the documents, the project documents have to be updated. Assumption log, requirement document, okay, all the requirement traceability matrix, the stakeholders, everything has to be updated. So these are all acts as an output of this third step, and it uses the tools and techniques like expert judgment, data analysis, business analyst, decision making, interpersonal and team skills, and product analysis. These are all acts as an input. These are all acts as a tools and techniques. okay, for evaluating the inputs to get the proper project scope management. Then fourth step of the project scope management is creating WBS. Creating WBS. That is nothing but work breakdown structure. Is the process of subdividing a project deliverables and the project work into smaller and more meaningful components. Okay, project is a very big deliverable. So this big deliverable is going to be divided into smaller deliverables, nothing but small deliverables of the project makes a very big project. Okay, so the meaningful division of the components of the deliverable is known as work breakdown structure. That is nothing but identification of all the activities of the project, and you need to divide the activities on before assume that you consider a big project. Okay, make into different phases. Okay, I'll give an example later. Okay, let it be. So it is the identification of all the processes which are to be divided, and a small deliverable would be finally get into a bigger deliverable as a project. Okay, it consists of inputs like project management plan and project documents and enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets, and output is the project document updates and the scope baseline or the project work breakdown structure, which is the most important output of this fourth step. Okay, I will give and also the tools and techniques used are expert judgment with the meetings and decomposition technique for establishing the relationship among the activities of the project, like PERT GPM, project evaluation review technique, and critical path method. These are the two networks which establish the relationship and which establishes the start and end of each activity of the project, what will be the longest duration of the project, everything. Okay, I'll give an example for this. The project is, as I told you, that it should be divided into meaningful components: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5. Consider a metro project. Consider a Bangalore metro project. Okay, the objective of the metro project is to have a better connectivity among all the multiple cities of the Bangalore capital. Okay, so in the first phase, okay, the metro construction from the Majestic to the Naganathpura. This is the first phase. Second phase, metro construction to Whitefield. Third phase, metro construction to Electronic City. And the fourth phase, metro construction from Majestic to Nelamangala. So these are all the 4 deliverables of a big project. Big project is metro construction. So the small deliverable into 4 deliverables, okay, phase wise of the project. First they concentrate on the phase 1, or they may take up all the phases parallelly if there is a time limitation. That depends upon again the customer or the government in what way they are giving the project. So these phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Phase 1 consists of 1 or 2 deliverable. Phase 2 consists of 2 more 3 deliverable. Okay, and for each phase they have got work package, or what all the work to be carried out in each phase. Okay, this is an example of work breakdown structure. Okay, you can refer the notes. So there are given an example of a project, and also given an example of construction of a house. Okay, the designing, procurement, construction, inspection, and walk through the closing of the project. So these are the different phases of the construction of the house. So each phase has got certain deliverables. Okay, that is called as the work breakdown structure. Okay. Then fifth phase is control scope. Control scope. The control scope is the process of monitoring the status of the project and the product scope and managing the changes to the scope baseline. Control scope is nothing but, okay, there will be when during the execution of the project there will be some deviations. Okay, the some deviations are nothing but the sum of the activities may not be in parallel with what the project plan has been prepared. What the plan has been prepared. So those activities have to be controlled or the managed by the modification of the scope baseline. The key benefit of this process is the scope baseline is maintained throughout the project. Okay, this process is performed throughout the project. That is nothing but we need to control all the activities in the project management such that they should move as per the plan. If you require any additional resources of equipment, additional recruitment of the workers, additional recruitment of the money, additional recruitment of the time, you add to the project management plan and control. That is known as the controlling the scope. It consists of 4 inputs. One is project management plan, project document, and work performance data, and organizational process assets. Work performance data, that is nothing but each and activity a log is being maintained. When that activity has started, who has started, who is the responsible person, when that activity has completed, what are the resources it has consumed, that is called as work performance data. Okay, that's also to be taken as an input for this 5th step, that is controlling the scope. What are the output produced? Work performance information. Okay, it tells about all the activities. Are they in a right path or not? If not, what action to be taken? That is known as the work performance report. The change request. Okay, any change request has come, that is to be approved in the meeting. Change requests and project management plan updates. Okay, the project plan has to be updated because there will be deviations in the execution. And the project documents updates. The documents also to be updated. Okay, so these are some of the outputs of the control scope. Then the last step of the project scope management is validate the scope. That is the 6th step of the project scope management. Validate the scope is the process of formalizing the acceptance of the completed project deliverables. Okay, completed project deliverables. I repeat, validate the scope is the process of formalizing acceptance of the completed project deliverables. The key benefits of this process is that it brings an objectivity to the acceptance process and increase the probability of the final product or service or the result. Acceptance by the validating the each deliverable. So as I told you that a bigger deliverable has to be made into smaller deliverables and each deliverable have to be validated by the inspection. Okay, whether have you met the correct objective which have been defined in the project charter or in the project scope, have we met in each deliverable? That is known as the validation of the scope. Okay, and this process is performed periodically throughout the project. And don't think that this has to be done only at the end. A clear monitoring, clear follow-up, clear expediting, clear validating is necessary at each phases of the project life cycle. Each phase of the project life cycle. Okay. And what are the inputs are used for this validating the scope, and what are the outputs? So the inputs is project management plan, and the second one is the project documents, third one is verified deliverables, which deliverable to be verified, and work performance data of the project which has been already performed. These are the four documents acts as input for validating the scope. Then what will be the output? The accepted deliverables after verification, after validation, which deliverables are accepted, which deliverables are not accepted. That is the output. Then work performance information, is the work performance information is correct, and change requests are formally agreed or approved in the meeting or not, and the project document updates, all the requirements and all the requirement traceability metrics have to be updated, and it acts as a output of the project. Output of the project. This is the last phase of the project scope management. Last step, sixth step, is the validation of the scope of the project. Okay, so this completes the 50% of the syllabus of the first unit. Okay, in the next class we need to talk about the project schedule management. Project schedule management, that is nothing but it is work breakdown structure. Work breakdown structure. And also we need to discuss about the network diagrams where numerical problems are involved. In that numerical problems, you are expected to draw a network and establish the relationship as per the numerical problem or the issue or the scenario, and you need to calculate the critical path of the project, and also we need to calculate which is the latest start, earliest finish, latest start, latest finish, total float, free float, slack. All these data with respect to the project network is to be calculated. Okay, and in the final examination they will be asking, as well as in the second test they will be asking the numerical problems about the network diagram. So that I will be discussing in the online classes as well as when the offline classes starts. So I will take the one or two examples on the board and explain very clearly so that you will be able to understand the concept of the network diagram, which is most important in terms of the project management, in terms of the work breakdown schedule, or in terms of the project schedule management. Okay, that we'll discuss in the next class. Okay, bye, take care.